Hello teacups, what's brewing? Hope things are well with you. It's exactly 9:37 on my computer clock right now, so we are quite late. I was sort of hoping Chantal would maybe upload a little bit earlier and then I could just do 2 days content at once. But given that she uploaded 22 hours ago, there's a good chance by the time I get this film edited, exported, all the rest, that a new piece of content will be up. So Foodie, oh Foodie, there's some classic cycles in here, friend. She is going back to the old playbook. If you are not an older follower of Foodie, if you were not here for the old days of lore, she used to be somewhat infamous for her diet cycles. She's been more infamous for her rage cycles recently and for all the stuff that went on with Nada and now this move to Kuwait. That's where a lot of people came into her. But back in the day, it was all diet cycles, and we did take a look at that in my last video. Today, we've got what I ate in a day binge eating recovery. Excuse you, madam? Excuse you, madam. Absolutely not. Get out of here with that. Bear in mind, she's been at this a whole day. So, binge eating recovery, despite not pursuing treatment and undertaking it before taking on this, shall we call it a treatment plan? God, there is so much. Now, I will preface, and I actually have something to say when we get into her food later as well, but I'll preface this with, I recognize binge eating disorder as a serious thing. Disordered eating is something you should take seriously that does require a lot of help. And when I start criticizing what Chantal is doing, it is not me criticizing binge eating as a whole. I know there are many people out there who suffer terribly with it and are working really hard to overcome it, okay? So just have that as my little disclaimer. That is not where Foodie's at, but we'll move on. So she's sitting in what appears to be the gaming chair, so I'm guessing it's whatever setup they use for the gaming channel for Salah. She's got a green screen on the background for no apparent reason, but I'm just suspicious because it's there. When something changes that seems to have no good reason, I get suspicious. So we go into the intro for this video because she does an introduction, then she does her clips and takes us through the day. I am still working on recovering from my binge eating disorder. Bear in mind, she has had 5 years in which to pursue treatment and has pretended to pursue treatment many times and then never moved past the first couple of appointments on any of the attempts made. Her current binge was on day 1 of the meal plan she had, which was completely unrealistic for her to begin with, to say she was going to cut it down to 1,200 calories. I know she said 11. I'm going to say 12 because I was looking through Talabat, the delivery app for this, and all of these diet meal providers, they tend to have set calorie points. You can say, okay, I'm going to have a 1,200 calorie meal plan. I'm going to have a 1,500. I'm going to have an 1,800. So it's probably a 1,200 plan because 1,100 is lower than the recommended amount. And it's literally been a day since you started. What do you mean still working on it? Do you mean from 5 years ago? Because if we're taking this on a 5-year timeline, you suck at this. She moves on. I am starting to seek therapy again. Her last stint with a therapist was a very long way back, and she didn't go back because she kept messing them around with the appointments because she didn't really want to talk to them. So again, this is a case of I will get referred and I will go for 1 or 2 appointments and then do nothing. It's the same pattern. She says she's looking for a therapist experienced with binge eating. Okay, no problem. I think therapy is a fantastic idea for her. I've always said that. I think the vast majority of her audience have, at one point or another, looked at the screen in horror and just been like, my dude, therapy. Yeah, most of us have been in that position, I feel. But let's talk concrete movement, okay? How are you going about this search? What steps have you taken? Who have you contacted? Therapy is a great idea, but what actions have you taken rather than thoughts? Because if we are 1 day into this, it's a little bit early to be like, oh yeah, no, I'm in recovery, when you haven't even accessed a healthcare professional. I do not expect you to be able to do that in one day, but if you can't do it in one day, don't present it that way. She says she thinks the most realistic aim is to be binge-free day by day. It's a goal for every day. And yes, she's been in here a million times, and sometimes it takes people years and years to heal. Yes, it absolutely does. And that goes back to my disclaimer at the beginning of this video, where I understand that people have this as a real struggle and it's an ongoing thing in their lives. But that's with them actively engaging in treatment, which Foodie has shown no evidence of on her channel. I say actively engaging, as in consistently partaking in treatment. She has never done that, ever. She's never even been consistent taking her medication without the other treatment. Now, she acknowledges that some people have said, well, the negativity online might not be a great place for you to make a genuine change in your life, which is something that has been discussed so many times on this channel. She clearly cannot handle her audience. It may not be a good idea to do this with them. And she says she thinks it's important to share this journey, and it helps with the support she gets from the loyal watchers of her channel. The loyal ones, you guys. I assume the ones that pay, but given that membership no longer has any benefits because she's doing open lives occasionally, I don't see why you would. But let's get real about this. Her channel viewership is basically a cesspool, and I should know because I swim in it. So this is really where you see her going back to form and attempting to regenerate her viewership. Because in the olden times of Chantal's channel, this is exactly what she'd do. She'd come up with this soft-spoken, oh, I'm struggling hard, guys. Look, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, and I'll do them for this day. And that would suck in new viewers who didn't understand why everybody was being so mean. And why is everybody not supporting her in this? And look, it's hard, but she's accessing everything. She's really thinking about her emotions. She's trying to approach this holistically with her medication, with her therapist. Chantal is saying everything she knows people want to hear, because that's how you scrape in the new viewers, and that's how you manipulate the old ones. Just to say, no, look, guys, this time's for real. This time I'm gonna change. There's always a chance somebody's going to change when they say that. But past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior. And given that her behavior seems to be working on the same patterns with the same motivations, which we are going to discuss, then I don't see the end result being any different than it has been 1,000 times before. And she's not in the same position to refresh her audience the way she has been before. Now she has all the animal abuse conversation. Now she has all the NADA stuff under her belt. Now she's in Kuwait. There's so many things that are different now than they were when she was first showing us her pattern of behavior. And she's so much more troublesome and problematic as a creator now than she appeared to be before, that it's just not going to be as successful. However, some people will come in. But if she thinks this is going to just be a clean slate the way it has been before, I think she might be kidding herself. She talks about the negativity and that people, I'm not sure which people at this point, she doesn't really have a circle, but people think could be a hindrance. And she says she feels comfortable as long as she does it on her own terms, which she defines as basically deleting anything she deems negative to keep it a safe space. So no change there, and focusing on the positive. So no future rages then, right? Got it? I will mark the calendar. You sure? Okay. In a not overly promising turn of events, she says that the therapy and resources will be online. Now, I'm not shitting on online therapy. Like, people do what they are comfortable doing, and it fits in with people's lifestyles a lot more easily sometimes. But I'm going to ask again for details. What platform? The Canadian healthcare system, which you still owe back taxes to and are not technically eligible for as a non-resident, but that does presume that your paperwork is in order at home and they know that. or through like a paid platform BetterHelp kind of deal, which you pay for and you control and you can blow off as and when is needed? Or are we not that far yet because dreaming is a form of planning? She said she's going to show you what she ate, which was a full day from yesterday. She's been learning a technique to help her when she feels like eating, but she doesn't want to talk about it yet because she wants to give it a try for another few days, which is fair enough. But she is rereading the binge code, which is something she tried, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and did nothing with. So again, past behavior, future behavior, I don't see this changing. Now, when it comes to dieting successfully, the fact is we all fail until we succeed. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, I'm being quite harsh on her because everyone fails at diets. Everyone fails and fails and fails and fails. And I have failed and failed and failed and failed at diets. And I actually ended up having weight loss surgery, which is something we're going to talk about in just a second in relation to what I'm about to say. But the point is, until you do it, you fail at doing it. So it's not that she doesn't have a chance here, but when you look at how she's moving forward, I don't see this chance being any more successful than the others. She does say she has to be more aware of her condition, her triggers, and be more responsible. Well, technically she says be more responsibility for my mental health, so she can be on the road to recovery. I was having trouble with my notes there for a second. That is pretty vital if she wants to see a permanent change, but I don't think for a second she's going to do it. Because if she was going to be more aware of her condition and to pursue better mental health, she'd be doing this through an actual doctor, and she would have started it before she presented it as being on the road to recovery, when it appears all she's done is pick up the book, The Binge Code, again. A self-help book does not a doctor make, particularly when you're combining your treatment with antidepressants and other pills. And if you're going to be more aware of your condition and your triggers, then that factors into some of the foods that you're eating later, but we will get to that. So she's still eating the meal kits that she's getting delivered, but she's supplementing the food, which we suggested the other day, so not to waste them, with cheese, spoiler alert, and some extra veg or a potato with cheese. A potato with cheese is not a great, we'll get there. But the point is she's going to put some extra food in there and then hopefully balance things out and it'll be better for her. That is not a bad idea. I suggested it myself, and at least now she'll be eating the food. She says, I think a huge factor in the success for not binging yesterday was eating enough food and eating more on schedule. Her schedule is every few hours. So instead of waiting till she's really hungry, she catches it before she gets super hungry. And it has to be satisfying. She's trying to make the food more nutritious because sometimes when your body is giving you hunger signals, it's trying to get nutrients. Now, this is absolutely true. You can see people who are obese who are also malnourished because they get the hunger signal because your body wants something, needs something, and they just eat a ton of calories that don't contain it. So while I agree that that is absolutely true, I do not see it evidenced in her meals yesterday. And she says the mental aspect of it was really hard, and the hunger. She kept thinking, oh, I'm hungry again. If she were eating truly nutritious food, she could be eating larger portions and she wouldn't be physically hungry. Now, that doesn't account for mental cravings, but the physical hunger would help to prevent the mental cravings, or rather, the physical hunger being taken care of, you know what I mean. The types of calories she was taking in just will absolutely leave her hungry and craving more of the quick, easy carbs. She says one of the things she's using is trying to wait 10 minutes and see if the hunger is still there. Is she really eating because she's hungry, or is she eating for another reason? She says sometimes, even when she recognizes it as another reason, she doesn't care and she wants it now, but she's trying to at least think about it, which is a good habit to get into. Now, we move into the kitchen and fridge tour for her supplemental food. Now, I have 2 things to say before we start going into my thoughts and opinions on the food she has, okay? Number 1, I am coming at this as somebody who had weight loss surgery. I had it done 7 years ago, okay? So 7 years ago, the idea of like restriction and how it feels and what I can eat and what I can't is very different than the first year or two out, okay? Now, while I think my experience and my opinions on the food are still valid and relevant, particularly as I've come from someone who struggled with a lot of the same issues as Chantal and still struggles with them, to kind of where I am now. But when I talk about feeling full and some of the things that I do that help me, be aware that physically I'm coming from a different place than Foodie. Another thing I want to say, because I know I'm going to slip and I'm going to use good food and bad food, I don't think we should demonize food. And I don't think that food should hold a moral value. So when I use the words good and bad, the phrasing is imperfect at best. In this case, when I say bad, what I mean is foods that will not help her to meet her goals. And good in this case would be foods that can do so if used correctly. I'm sure there'll be other stuff I have to qualify, but for now, let's get into it. Popcorn with butter and a bit of salt. She's just showing us around her kitchen right now. I think popcorn is fine as a snack, but I do think it's very easy to overeat. It's more calories than you would think, particularly if you're adding butter. And I find popcorn doesn't really fill me up. If you're a grazer and you just need something to munch, it might take care of that for you. But it's one of those foods you've got to be careful with. And speaking of food you've got to be careful with, this just might be from my personal experience, but she shows some granola. Get that the fuck out of your kitchen if you want to succeed. I'm sorry. Cereal is very, very hard to portion correctly, and it is one of my difficulties. Because when it comes to cereal specifically, if I buy a box of cereal, you know what the serving size is? A box. I am not opening that. I'm not measuring it out. Like, I'm having a big old bowl. And so the answer to that for me was just do not bring cereal into the house. But also this particular cereal, now she does mention that it's something kind of desserty. So obviously she's going to it for sweet. So at least she's aware of that. But the granola she's got is trash. Like, it's 478 calories per 100 grams, because we have that brand here as well. I mean, it's Kellogg's, of course we have that brand. Everyone has that brand, but we have that particular product here as well. And it's 29 grams of sugar per 100 grams. Sugar is the third ingredient. Do you know how easy it is to eat 100 grams of granola? It's really, really easy. And as a general concern through a lot of the things I'm seeing through her eating, an easy to grab, high sugar, desserty food that you can eat handfuls of with absolutely no prep time is not what she needs to have in her house around her. Because all that does is give her the opportunity to make an instant decision with something that tastes good. And when you're in the mood to binge, when you are hunting around your kitchen looking for anything to kind of fill that urge, that is going to go down way too easy and way too quickly. I would actually say similar with, she mentioned she eats a lot of nuts. Nuts are a great food, but if you are going to find that they're too easy to access and you're eating them by the handfuls, they're probably not a good food for you. I think actually Foodie kind of has a problem here. I don't think she's entirely sure what her goal is exactly. I know she says to prevent binges, but I don't really think she's sat down and engaged with the idea of what that means for her. Because I think to her, it means have a little of anything you want at any time, so at no point do you have to feel overly uncomfortable. And while that is good in theory, I don't think it will work for her. Some people succeed when they moderate. Some people succeed when they just clear the area and make their environment kind of failure proof. I am definitely of the latter. I find it much, much easier to remove something than to manage it. And Foodie talks about food obsession and how she'll think and she'll think and she'll think and she won't be able to stop thinking about that food. I find that happens when the food is available. Because when a food isn't available, there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter. And actually, although I don't think he'd do this because I think he'll give her anything to shut up, Sala would be really useful here because he is the person getting the food from outside. And didn't she say that he goes in and gets the groceries as well? So if he really wanted to help her, he could just say, okay, I will not get you fast food. We are not ordering here. Now, she's an adult and he's an adult. They're never going to have that fight because it would be a fight with Foodie. But that's something he could do. Because Foodie doesn't really go out and definitely doesn't go out without him, they could actually really easily make the environment fail-proof. Foodie is not a queen of moderation. She cannot have a little bit. And I don't think she recognizes that in herself yet, or if she does, she pushes it down because the alternative is giving up the possibility of the food that she wants later. It's like she's going to show us in a minute that she's got some crinkle cut fries in the freezer. And that's just waiting for the moment that she wants them. And I tell you now, she's going to be in one of those moods where she just wants to eat, a mood that I recognize. Those fries are going to be gone. Whereas if they weren't an option, she couldn't eat them. But that's the solution and the fear. We'll get to that anyway. But she shows us some yogurt. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's an individual portion. And she's using it supposedly for the granola and the fruit for breakfast. I would personally want a breakfast that stuck with me a little bit more so I wasn't hungry at lunch. It's up to her how filling she finds it. And again, I'm saying this as someone who's had surgery. So once you get past the first year or two of surgery, the restriction isn't the same. And if I'm saying as like a surgery patient, hey, I wouldn't find that fills me up. I can't believe Foodie, like I had the sleeve surgery, if anyone's wondering. So I have a certain amount of restriction there. I can't eat over a certain amount of food. That amount has changed over the years, but there is a limit to how much I can contain. If Foodie has not had that surgery and she's used to eating huge amounts, I just don't see a yogurt, some berries and a granola sprinkle satisfying her, even if it would look good for Instagram. She's defrosting some strawberries in a cup to add to things later. There's nothing wrong with frozen fruit. I don't like the taste very much, but if she's happy with it, it's fine. She's got a container of grape leaves. Again, really easy to just grab and shove in your face. I don't think they're probably very high calorie at all. I checked out a jar of grape leaves just to see what the nutritional values were because it looks like they've been to a deli for those. And they're about 20 calories each. They're really nothing too bad. But again, they are this big. It's going to be incredibly easy for her to put 10 or 20 of them into her face and then wonder what's going on and how she consumed 400 calories and still not be satisfied after because they don't take up a lot of space. She's got some wheat toast bread. She's got some eggs. She says eggs are very satisfying with proteins and fats. I eat a huge amount of eggs. I think they're a great addition to your diet. They are easy, fast, versatile, cheap. Oh, I know they were a bit crazy in America for a while. I don't know what the prices are doing now, but cheap here. Ooh, my contact lens just said absolutely not. Sorry. My eyes are a little bit red, that's why. So yeah, eggs I think are a great addition to the diet, but I try to avoid them as the main protein in my food. And that's just because in my experience, and your mileage will vary hugely with this, it's the same thing as the yogurt. It's the satisfaction after. Eggs will fill me up. But after an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'll be thinking, what else could I eat? Because it doesn't stay with me as long as like a protein does. A protein in this case being like a meat, a beef, lamb, chicken, that kind of thing. She says she doesn't really like eggs though, so I don't think she's going to enjoy it if she has to eat them. There's lots of protein she does like, why not use some of those? Shredded mozzarella, which she's saying add for extra protein. Be very careful with your serving sizes there. One thing I will say through this whole thing, a good habit to get into that she's trying in this video at the very least, is she appears to be measuring things out in single portions, which is a good habit. You'd be amazed what some single portions are. I was in the supermarket the other day and I picked up, God, I think it was on like the specials table, and it was Oreos. Now I didn't buy them, I don't really eat Oreos, but I looked at the back and it made me laugh because it was like a serving is 2.5 Oreos. I was sitting there like 2.5. Who is out here Splitting Oreos to get a serving size. Get out of here with this. Because companies want to put a smaller number on the nutrition because most people won't read carefully and they'll just be like, oh great, it's however many calories. And then they'll put half a sleeve in their face. Because Oreos are pretty moreish and there's a reason I no longer eat them. So I'm assuming every time we see a portion of cheese in the next part of the video, I'm assuming 30 grams for that. But 30 grams is about 87 calories of this kind of cheese. But although she's counting it as a protein, and there is protein in cheese, it's also very high in fat, which isn't great for her specifically. And if she's going to use it as kind of a filler to keep herself full for longer, add some meat or vegetables and actually fill yourself up. Like a little bit of cheese is fine, but adding it to everything won't achieve the things that you claim you want to achieve. And this is where I'm saying she's a bit confused. Because she's like, oh, it's higher protein. Yeah, higher protein is a great thing to do. But she's not doing low carb, kind of medium protein, high fat, or lower carb, higher protein, or whatever it is she's trying. She's looking supposedly to stop binges. And she's saying that the key to that is not feeling hungry. So if you've got the calories to add cheese, you can definitely make a much better choice and add something much bulkier to stay with you longer. She goes over to her vegetables and says, potatoes, I love potatoes. She finds them incredibly satiating. And I'm like, I bet you do, it's a massive starch. She's overly reliant on starches and white carbs to fill her up. They're higher in calories and it's just gonna end up triggering more cravings because it's gonna convert into sugar and she's just gonna want more. And again, she's gonna feel overly bloated after she's eaten it, but it's not gonna stick with her. So of all the vegetables she could have chosen, potatoes are not it. And I realized that potatoes get a bad rep since low carb has been more fashionable, but I don't have a problem with a potato as a thing. I have a problem that she's using it as a healthy alternative instead of a different type of vegetable that would do her more good. She's doing it because really she wants the carb hit. She has a bunch of bananas. Again, they're whole bananas. It might be a little bit higher sugar option, but it's better that it's whole. It'll have some fiber in it. It will release sugar slowly. It's not really a big deal. She mentioned she wants banana and peanut butter, which again is fine as a snack, but requires really careful portioning. I went through a period where I was first starting low carb post-surgery, and I was off sugar, and I stayed off sugar for a really long time. And I'm not a big eater of peanut butter, but I was going through a phase of it at one point. And I tell you, it is incredibly easy to take a spoon of peanut butter and think I'll have this just as something to get me over the sweet craving, and then realize your jar of peanut butter is gone. I don't necessarily mean in one sitting, but it's really easy just pass the fridge and go, oh, I'll have one of those. And then be eating way more calories and way more frequently than you initially planned. Or to put some onto your plate and go like, oh, that's about a tablespoon, and it be 3. Like, it's a hard one to judge, and she has got a high possibility of overeating on it, especially as she's seeing it as kind of a healthy alternative when it's incredibly calorie dense. Over to the crinkle cut fries that I mentioned earlier. She says, in case she's craving, which gives me really big eating my treat day lobster mac and cheese on day 1 energy, because I think if she has it there, she will eat it. She says that she obsesses over food. Food obsessions, I understand. I understand thinking, no, I want it. But again, if she's only operating within her apartment and it's not in her apartment, she doesn't have the same easy access. She needs the intermediary of Salah in order to obtain her food now. So if she didn't have them there, she might be forced to just take the craving on and not fulfill it. And then she could get over it, which she'll never do if she's got it available. Now, I mentioned in the last react that I had this weird thing and have this weird thing that when I start onto a plan, when I've planned out my meals for the day and I know that, okay, this is the last meal, this will be the last of my calories, I get slightly anxious not because I'm hungry, because what if I get hungry later? And I think she is in the very, very similar headspace to that, where she's like, but what if? And sometimes the answer is, well, then you won't be that comfortable for a little while, but then it will be over. You'll go to bed, you'll do something else, the craving will pass. Like reminding yourself, whether you have it or not, you won't starve in the next X amount of time. Sometimes it's the slightly harsh conversation you have to have. But I think if she has them there, she will find a reason to eat them. Broccoli, which I was like, oh great, some frozen broccoli, wonderful. I love broccoli with cheese on a potato. And I was like, well, that's a very different scenario, isn't it? I could think of about 1,000 better ways to incorporate that broccoli that will serve your goals better. We can start by maybe adding it to that meal you have later. She shows a tub of milk that she's boiling off to make paneer. She said she's experimenting. Experimenting for what though? Like, look out for the next time she eats paneer, because if she's got these meal boxes and then she's supplementing, what's she going to use the paneer for? Paneer isn't the kind of cheese you just put on top and melt, which is what she's looking for with some of the extra that she's adding to the meals. She can't use the paneer unless she's just eating it as a separate meal that she either does or does not show on camera. Again, there's nothing wrong with paneer, but I want to know how she's utilizing that. Because I think in her head, she's just like, I made it myself, it's homemade, it's healthy. And I'm like, yeah, but not if you eat that entire pan. I'm not sure why she's chosen today of all days to do it, especially when she knows she struggles to control herself around cheese. And one of the thoughts she had earlier was, I need to be aware of my triggers. But let's move on to the food she ate today. Now, we know that the diet box she ordered was 1,200 calories. So all I've done is figure out the calories and the products that she had around those meals, the things that she added herself, okay? And weirdly, quite a few of the things that we saw aren't things that she showed us she had. So that was, I want to say a bit odd, like it was a very specific kitchen tour. She crafted that kitchen tour. Because you've got to remember, Salah is still there. He still needs to eat whatever he's going to eat, and he's not going to eat the crap she eats. And I want to talk about that with the chickpeas, actually. So in the morning, she had the breakfast sandwich, which was mortadella, which I hate. It's this pink tube of deli meat that you get slices of. Oh, it's awful. She also had some chili and garlic potato bites. Now, you look in the picture and she had 10 of them. This is probably because when you look at the nutritional information, 10 is considered a serving size. And that's 174 calories. And she had a cup of pineapple and mango juice. Now, I don't know exactly what brand she had. This is a brand I found just to have an idea. It was probably about 100 calories, but mostly sugar. There's 23 grams of sugar in this particular one. Pineapple and mango are both very high sugar. So that was about 275 extra calories at breakfast. Lunch, again, I'm assuming 30 grams. She seemed to just add cheese to the salad and everything else was on the plan. So that would be an 87 extra calories. She had a weird snack. She had a bag of chips, which were 116 calories. She had 2 vine leaf wrap things, grape leaves, which probably were about 20 calories each. And she had a glass of Coca-Cola, which was probably again around 100 calories. It seemed a little bit of a weird combination, but again, if you're talking about trying to stop binging, this is where her and I disagree with this. She takes it as, I will have a little of something I crave. And I understand the logic of it, but as I say, I don't think it will work for her. I think, I don't know what's in the Vineline, so we won't count that, but she's having a full sugar Coke and some chips. That is just going to send her brain into overdrive. She is going to want more and more and more and more. So I would say at this point, being this fresh into the idea, the best way to serve herself would be to clear all of these kinds of foods out of her house and to replace them with something that's going to fill her up. Because if she knows she's eating quality food that has physically filled her, then you know any craving you have is going to be a mental craving and not a physical one, because physically you're full. That is the reassurance having whole foods in the house is going to help you with. And I would even classify potatoes in there. Like, okay, you want to eat potatoes, but know what you're eating and get the processed crap out. And then that way you know, well, I had a potato and some cheese, I am full, but I want some Coca-Cola. That is just a sugar craving. I don't need to fulfill it. I am physically full. So that 3 p.m. snack was 259-ish calories. She then said she had half a cup of chickpeas. There was just some boiled chickpeas. That's a side dish there. Probably here as well. There tends to be a lot of commonality. But it was obviously a takeout container. And I don't see Salah just happening to go and get a cup of chickpeas, which is a side dish, I believe, and then just bringing it home with nothing else. I think Salah has gotten takeout maybe for himself, because again, he's not eating her meals, and so he's given her the chickpeas from his meal. But if he's bringing takeout into the house, and I'm not saying he definitely did, but if he is, there's no way Foodie is going to be able to sit there and stick to things if he's eating takeout. It's just not going to happen. So if she has these chickpeas, the question then becomes, okay, what else did she eat off camera? Which might have been nothing, we've got no proof, but if he's had takeout, she's probably gonna have it too. And if this was the first day and she was working really hard on her portions, maybe the chickpeas are all she had today. Well, it was yesterday, but you know, but that's gonna be a harder and harder thing to resist, and I don't see it lasting. And she put some cheese on her salad when she ate dinner at 8:30, which again, I'm counting as 87 calories. I don't know what time she had the chickpeas, but I think she would do better to balance her meals, and she said she wanted to do this. And I suppose if she had her snack at 3, but her snack wouldn't have filled her up at all, it was chips and Coke, it would have disappeared immediately. They're all slider foods. When you chew them down, they chew down into nothing and just slide right down. There's nothing that's gonna fill your stomach there. But if she had that at 3, she had the chickpeas after, and then she had dinner at 8:30, I feel like that period of time she wouldn't have had any satisfaction from the snacks, and then 8:30 would have been quite late for her dinner then. She had later, I think she had these as 2 separate ones. I guess she was getting munchy at night. And again, if she had had better snacks earlier in the day, she had a better chance of preventing needing these at night. She had some like cheese puff things. I just found an Arabic brand. This is from the UAE actually. That sounded a little bit like the brand name. I couldn't find the brand name she was talking about, but they didn't have any calories listed. Now, corn snacks don't tend to be high calorie, but again, they basically dissolve in your mouth. They're not going to fill you at all. She said she had half the bag. It's really common to get like 80 or 100 gram bags here, so I'm guessing if she had half the bag, she'd probably have 40. So I'm going to guess 150 calories. She also said that she had one of these mini Milky Ways, and they are 69 calories. So if you look at all the snacks and all the additional food, she added approximately 1,075 calories to her day, which still only puts her on like 2,300. If you were just focusing on calories for weight loss, that would be absolutely fine for Foodie. That would be okay. The problem she is going to have here is the quality of her calories. It's always chips, it's always chocolate. And she had a mini Mars bar the other day on camera. And if she's had the mini Mars bar and now she's got the mini Milky Way, she's probably got a variety bag of these minis somewhere, because that's how they sell them here. If she's got those in the house and she gets hungry for sugar at 3 a.m., what do you think she's going to eat? It's going to be that entire bag. She's not going to just stop at one. And this is the slippery slope that these kinds of foods do, because they're not satisfying. You can eat them till you feel a bit sick, but you don't usually eat them till you're full, because this kind of food doesn't really do that. And if she can add an extra 1,075 calories to her day, which she absolutely can, she could have had 2 filling meals for that. You can make a filling 500 calorie meal. She could have done that twice today. She could have eaten the 3 meals she had, and instead of snacks, she could have had whole meals that would have satisfied her so much more. and she would have a chance of being more successful. But she's constantly going for these low quality, overly processed, not fulfilling slider foods, which make her want more. And this is why I don't think she's going to succeed, because she's not willing to sit down and have that frank and honest conversation with herself that says, I really want to have these foods in my diet, and I should be able to eat a portion of them and it not be a big deal because I can fit them into my calories. But the fact is, including them is more damaging than not including them. And if I want to be successful, for a while at least, I'm just going to have to get rid of them. And she is not going to do that. She's just not going to do it. And she thinks she's gaming the system because by eating terrible quality calories but under calories, she should be able to lose weight. That's how the math works. And she will. But she will not make life easy for herself in the meantime. Oh, my phone just told me I'd exceeded the file size. Okay. I was going to add a few more points, but I think I might just leave it here. Personally, I know she'll never stick to it, but I think a lower carb approach would be good for her simply because she is so overly reliant on sugar. And it's not always sugar that you can see. It's white carbs breaking down into sugar. It's how she metabolizes it. But she is so reliant on those things until she can completely pull herself free of them. I don't think she'll have any opportunity to be able to approach them in a controlled way. So those are my thoughts. I'm going to leave you there, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.